So we're on Jiu-Jitsu month 5 now. It's been an eventful month. I got a diagnosis for my injury. So we found out that I fractured my right 9th intercostal in the back. And over the 2 months after I fractured it, it developed a golf ball sized lump of calcified bone. They call that bone scar. And that is gradually shrinking. I can definitely still feel it. I hope it densifies and shrinks to the point that I can't feel it while rolling, or at any point for that matter. So we'll see how that goes. Coming back to rolling feels so good. It's so wonderful to be back. I missed it terribly. And it's sore, it's tender, it hurts the day after depending on how much I roll, but it improves a little bit every day. My range of motion is all there, and I do the best I can to work through that range of motion constantly because I don't want it to heal frozen. I want it to heal mobile. Okay, so topics I want to touch on today are my experience at my first IBJJF competition, things that I didn't have the experience to delve into before about differences between genders when rolling, and any mental blocks and struggles to get to practice or focus at practice. Okay, so first let's talk about the competition. I did not know the IBJJF was a big deal. I got on Google and found the first local jiu-jitsu competition that showed up, and that was an IBJJF, so that's what we did. Quite an experience. I'm trying to compare the crowd to a bodybuilding show, but there weren't any spectators because of the COVID regulations, although I still couldn't believe how many people weren't there for there not being allowed any spectators. I don't think that was very stringently adhered to. But at any rate, there were quite a lot of people, much different environment than the bodybuilding crowd. Great time. I sold my first pictures at the Chicago Open, so I've transitioned a bit from modeling to photographer, and I'm really enjoying that. I'm going to continue pursuing that. And I got eliminated in the first round. It was a huge bracket. There were 13 girls in my bracket, and I got eliminated in the first round. She was really good, really gracious winner. I lost by advantage, so it was a very small loss. But I was just so glad for the experience because the mindset that I went in with, which this is always the mindset I go in to anything new. Do I like this enough to do it again? How much of my lifestyle am I willing to compromise and shift to make doing this again a thing? And I came away with the conclusion that, yeah, I definitely want to do this again. I'm willing to make a fair amount of concessions. I would like to orient a fair amount of my life around this. And that knowledge and clarity made me so happy, in spite of the fact that it sucks to lose. Couple things, okay? First of all, I'm never going to cut water to make weight again. That's for sure. So I take very stringent protocol to stay hydrated normally. If I have coffee, it's 1 cup early in the day. I'm very sensitive to coffee. It just makes me pee way too much, and I can feel it dehydrating me. I don't drink alcohol, and I keep my diet and my supplementation such that I stay hydrated and don't have nutrient deficiencies. Basically, I dehydrated 2 pounds to make weight because the gi is 4.5 pounds, which is ridiculous. But anyways, so I had to cut 2 pounds. 2 pounds is 40 minutes in the sauna. So I spaced that out over 2 days, and I did 10-minute sessions at a time. So really, that's not bad, but I'm telling you, I had a headache the whole day. I had a headache. I didn't move the same. My yoga session the next day was crap. People do not realize how much dehydration affects you. So I'm not cutting water next time. Like, I'll start however far back we need to start, but I'm going in 100%, not dehydrated. All right, that being done, if you have questions about the food or nutrition or whatever else I like to eat to perform, I have a decade history of putting together eating to perform, so I'm happy to go into all of that. It's just not really relevant here for this video. All right, so let's move into the gender differences when rolling, okay? There are two gender differences that I find significant, okay? First, there's the sexual attraction aspect, and second, there's the strength, size, domination aspect, okay? I'm pretty sure that in my first video, when it comes to the sexual aspect, I said, hey, this is a martial art. The people who are serious about it, you can tell, and it's a non-issue. This holds true, okay? That being said, it's not quite that black and white. I've definitely had difficulty both with drilling and rolling partners at multiple schools that I was attracted to. And all I can say is the more you do it, the more the physical contact just becomes normal and natural. And this applies to people in general. I'd say I'm now very comfortable with people in my space as a result of practicing jiu-jitsu, period. And whether or not they're attractive now has like a small margin on how that affects me, but it's fairly small. And the mindset really controls it. I've gotten to the point where it's very easy to control my mindset about it, and it's not really an issue. Now, we're on month 5. I didn't feel that way at month 2. So that took some practice. So if you're still struggling with that, just keep going and focus on what you want to focus on. And also, it doesn't mean that if there is attraction there, that can't lead to something else or mean anything. But you've got to separate that and keep it off the mat. That's that's the best way I can put that. Okay, now I'm fortunate that I didn't roll with any guys where they did something that was blatantly or obviously sexual, or they made any comments that were inappropriate. I haven't had to deal with that. I think part of that's probably my demeanor. If I did have to deal with it, I think I would just tell the guy straight up, hey, you can't say X, Y, or Z, or you can't do X, Y, or Z if we're gonna roll together. And then if they keep doing it, you just don't roll with them. Like, there are lots of other people to roll with. It's not a big deal. I guess if you're a super small school, that's different, but I digress. Okay, so let's move on to the size and strength differences. Gee, wouldn't it be nice if the world were perfect and you could just say, the gender doesn't matter? Well, in my case, I think we're as close for that to being true as you could possibly get for my size and weight. I'm 125 pounds, I'm 17% body fat, 44% of me is muscle mass, so compared to most guys my size, I have as much, if not more muscle, and I've been using it for a decade. So strength-wise, we might be comparable. But 90% of the people I roll with aren't my size. They're substantially bigger than me, okay? And I've learned that there are some guys where you go in and roll, and it's awesome. It's like a dog playing with a puppy. And it's a great dynamic because it's a challenge for the puppy. It's enjoyable for the dog. Guys who have this mindset, you'll hear them say things like, hey, when I roll with women or when I roll with a really small partner, I focus on technique and control over positioning or strength or conditioning, whatever it is. You want to hear that they're focusing on technique and control. Those are good things. Now, the other kind of guy, this feels more like a dog playing with a toy, if that makes sense. The dog doesn't have any particular concern for the well-being of the toy because it's an inanimate object. And when you roll with one of those kind of guys, I've learned that the best way to deal with it, aside from not rolling with them, because that's how you get fractured ribs, is to keep a little gas in the tank. You don't give them everything in any position. You don't give full strength in any position. That way, if he's intent on doing a move a couple times with a little more strength each time to get to wherever it is he's trying to go to, you have enough in the tank to move out of that position so that I'm not repeating something that's eventually going to injure me. Overwhelmingly, most of the guys have the first attitude that I described. I just think it's important, especially as a smaller person and as a woman, to be able to recognize that dynamic early on so you can choose your rolling partners. All right, let's cover progress, okay? So, major mental progress. I had a couple days this month where I really didn't want to go. And I fought with myself. I remember sitting in the car fighting with myself for about 15 minutes. Like, am I going to go? And eventually it dawned on me that I committed to this. This is what I said I was going to do, and so I'm going to do it. It's not really a question. I don't have to mentally argue with myself over it. So you just went. And I'm always glad. Now that being said, the environment's huge. The environment is huge. And I'm thinking to make a separate video on a couple details that can really make or break the training environment. So hold out for those. Other progress. If the person's new, I'll tap them out 4 or 5 times. It's great. Now, I can't submit anyone who's actually been training, but the new people, it's no problem. So that's wonderful. And anytime I get to roll with a woman my size, which is always fascinating, by the way, okay, because I have a bit of body dysmorphia in this area, I'll roll with a woman and I'll be like, how much do you weigh? She'll say 125, 130. And I go, what? We're the same size. We're really the same size? And I'll swear in my head I'm 15, 20 pounds at least bigger than her. So that's always interesting. But getting the privilege to roll with women my size and be able to work through moves and not just play 5 minutes of open guard on repeat, okay? Because like when you're rolling with a guy who's large enough you can't close your guard and slow enough you can't pass your guard. It's just 5 minutes of open guard. It happens a lot. Anyway, so we're going to keep going. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you back for month 6.